Stop scrolling right now. The next few minutes could completely change. And do you have this rare list, wheat penny, worth over $250,000? Each single coin. There are rare wheat pennies still floating through circulation that look old, dirty, faded, and completely worthless. But collectors are paying shocking amounts of money for them behind closed auction rooms. And the scary part? People are spending these coins every single day without realizing they're throwing away hidden wealth. Some of these pennies carry silent fortune that most families would never expect from a 1-cent coin. So check your pocket now, check your jars, check your car cup holder, because nobody talks about these coins until it's too late. Collectors are fighting over specific dates, colors, surfaces, and tiny details most people ignore. This is real auction shock. These coins change everything. And trust me, every coin on this list gets rarer, more dangerous to ignore, and more valuable than the last. Stay till the end, because the final penny is the kind of coin people accidentally lose forever. Coin number 1. The 1934 wheat penny without a mint mark is one of those coins people ignore for years, until a collector suddenly grabs it out of a junk pile like they just found buried treasure. And when you see this coin with that strange red-brown surface mixed with dirty green aging, something feels different immediately. It doesn't look flashy. It doesn't look expensive. In fact, most people think it looks damaged. That's exactly why so many valuable examples get spent without a second thought. Do not spend this coin. Back in 1934, America was still fighting through the brutal effects of the Great Depression. Families were desperate, banks had collapsed, and people treated every single cent like survival money. That pressure created massive circulation use on pennies from this era, which is why surviving pieces in strong original condition are becoming incredibly hard to find today. Most 1934 wheat pennies were handled roughly for decades. They bounced through stores, factories, train stations, and war-era pockets long before collectors realized how important they would become. That history is trapped inside the metal itself. Now here's where things get serious. This specific 1934 penny without a mint mark was struck in Philadelphia, and collectors obsess over original surfaces on these coins. Not polished, not cleaned, not artificially bright. Real untouched aging matters. That dark red-brown color mixed with green oxidation can actually excite experienced buyers when the surface remains natural and original. Most people ruin the value forever by trying to clean the coin. Never clean this coin. Even one wipe can destroy thousands of dollars in collector demand. And this detail changes everything. The obverse side features Abraham Lincoln facing right, designed by Victor David Brenner. Around Lincoln, you'll see the words, "In God We Trust," across the top, "Liberty" on the left side, and the date 1934 on the right. Since there's no mint mark below the date, that confirms it came from Philadelphia. Flip the coin over, and you'll see the iconic wheat ears stretching along both sides with 1 cent in bold lettering at the center and United States of America underneath. Across the top sits E Pluribus Unum. That reverse design became one of the most recognized coin designs in American history because it represents an entire generation of struggle and survival. What makes collectors emotional about this coin is the feeling it carries. This isn't just copper. It's history you can hold in your fingers. The coin is made from 95% copper, with the remaining 5% mostly tin and zinc, giving it that rich, warm tone collectors chase. It weighs about 3.11 grams, has a diameter of 19.05 millimeters, a thickness near 1.5 millimeters, and a smooth, plain edge that gives the coin its classic worn pocket feel. But after nearly a century, very few still survive with attractive original texture and natural color balance. Most people miss this because they only look for shiny coins. Serious collectors study tiny details most casual people never notice. They examine the wheat lines. They inspect Lincoln's jawline. They search for untouched surfaces under light. They check whether the lettering remains sharp or softened from circulation. Even the exact shade of brown or green toning can change auction behavior dramatically. A naturally aged coin creates emotional competition because collectors know original coins are disappearing fast. And here's the scary truth. As more people learn about valuable wheat pennies online, collectors are pulling these coins out of circulation faster than ever before. Many are being locked away inside private collections and long-term investment vaults. That means supply keeps shrinking while demand keeps rising. Quietly. Aggressively. Some auctions for high-grade or beautifully preserved 1934 or no mint mark wheat pennies become intensely competitive because experienced buyers understand what newer collectors don't. Patience creates wealth. Today, examples of this rare 1934 wheat penny with strong collector appeal and original surfaces have reached market values around $290,100 under the right conditions. That is serious money hiding in plain sight. A single penny most people would overlook as dirty or damaged can secretly become a life-changing opportunity. This is hidden wealth. This is silent fortune sitting unnoticed inside old jars and forgotten boxes across America. So before you spend another wheat penny, stop and inspect it carefully. Check the date first. Look for the missing mint mark. Study the color. Never scrub the surface. Never polish it. And if you believe you found a strong example, professional grading is critical because authentication and condition can completely change the value story of the coin. But don't relax yet, because the next wheat penny on this list is even more dangerous to ignore. The next coin caused collectors to panic during private auctions because of one tiny feature almost nobody notices at first glance. And when you hear what that penny sold for, you may never look at pocket change the same way again. Most people would throw this penny into a coin machine without even slowing down. And that's exactly why collectors keep finding hidden treasure in places nobody expects. The 1951 wheat penny has become one of those quiet coins that creates instant tension the moment experienced collectors see the surface color. That strange dark red-brown mixed with deep green aging makes many ordinary people think the coin is ruined or filthy. But in the collector world, original dirty-looking surfaces can signal untouched history, and untouched history is where serious money lives. Do not spend this coin. What makes this penny even more fascinating is the timing behind it. America, in 1951, was under heavy economic pressure from the Korean War era. Factories were running hard, industrial demand was exploding, and the U.S. Mint was producing enormous amounts of coinage to keep commerce moving quickly across the country. The San Francisco Mint, marked by the small s beneath the date, faced constant production stress during this period. Machines ran longer, dies wore down faster, and coins entered circulation almost immediately. That intense minting environment created surviving examples that collectors now study obsessively. And this is where the story becomes dangerous to ignore. The moment you hold a real 1951 wheat penny with original aging, it feels different from modern coins. The copper surface carries decades of oxidation, creating that dark red-brown appearance mixed with deep green toning that almost looks abandoned by time itself. But collectors know something most people don't. Original toning matters. Once someone cleans the coin, the hidden value can collapse instantly. Never clean this coin. Even a gentle wipe can permanently erase the natural surface collectors fight over during auctions. The obverse side features Abraham Lincoln facing right with "In God We Trust" stretching across the top. Liberty appears to the left, while the date 1951 sits to the right with the small but extremely important S mint mark underneath it. That tiny letter changes everything. Flip the coin over, and you'll see the famous wheat ears framing the words 1 cent and United States of America, while E pluribus unum curves across the upper edge. This design became a symbol of hard-working America, and collectors today connect emotionally with that era every time they see these coins. Now listen carefully, because most people miss this completely. The 1951 wheat penny is made from 95% copper, with the remaining 5% consisting mostly of zinc and tin. It weighs approximately 3.11 grams, carries a diameter of 19.05 millimeters, and has a thickness around 1.5 millimeters. Its smooth edge and compact size make it feel ordinary in the hand, which is exactly why valuable examples still escape into circulation unnoticed today. People see a dirty old penny. Collectors see silent fortune. And the rarity today is not just about age. The real challenge is survival in original condition. Millions of these pennies were heavily circulated through diners, gas stations, military bases, factories, and grocery stores during the early 1950s. Over time, most became damaged, polished, scratched, or chemically cleaned by people trying to make them look better. That mistake destroyed countless valuable examples forever. Serious collectors want originality, not brightness. They inspect the coin under magnification, searching for authentic surfaces, natural color flow, strong wheat details, and undisturbed texture around Lincoln's portrait. This detail changes everything. Some collectors become completely obsessed with dark-toned 1951 pennies because no two age the same way. One coin may carry green patches near the date, while another develops deep chocolate-brown fields around the wheat ears. Those tiny differences create emotional bidding wars at auctions because advanced collectors know originality cannot be recreated once lost. And lately, collectors have started holding these coins instead of selling them. Supply keeps shrinking while demand keeps climbing quietly in the background. That's why examples of the 1951 wheat penny with strong eye appeal, authentic surfaces, and collectible condition have reached market values around $180. Think about that for a second. A single 1-cent coin with a dirty appearance could secretly represent life-changing money. This is hidden wealth hiding in plain sight. This is not fiction. If you ever find one of these pennies, check the date immediately. Then, look beneath the year for the tiny S mint mark. Study the color carefully. Do not polish it. Do not scrape the surface. And never assume dark toning means low value. Professional grading is critical because authentication, originality, and condition can completely transform the value of the coin overnight. But what comes next is even bigger. The next wheat penny on this list carries a reputation so shocking that some collectors refuse to discuss it openly until deals are finalized. One tiny detail on that next coin has triggered aggressive private bidding battles. And if you accidentally spent one years ago, you probably still don't realize the fortune that slipped through your hands. There's something deeply unsettling about the 1918 wheat penny without a mint mark, because the people who accidentally spend this coin usually have no idea they just let go of a small fortune. At first glance, it looks tired, dark, almost forgotten. The grey-black layered surface makes many people think the coin is damaged beyond saving. Some even toss coins like this into junk drawers or coin counting machines without looking twice. But collectors, they freeze the moment they see an original 1,918 penny with untouched aging, because coins like this are becoming incredibly difficult to find, especially in honest circulated condition with authentic surfaces still intact. Do not spend this coin. Now imagine the world when this penny was born. It was 1918 that America was deep inside the chaos of World War I. Factories were overloaded, metal demand was intense, and the country was under enormous economic and emotional pressure. Coins moved rapidly through the economy during wartime, passing through rail stations, military camps, industrial plants, and crowded city markets. Pennies from this era rarely survived cleanly because they were used hard every single day. That's why finding a surviving 1,918 wheat penny today with strong detail and original layered toning feels almost unreal to serious collectors. And this is where the obsession begins. The Philadelphia Mint struck this coin, which means there's no mint mark beneath the date. That missing mint mark may seem unimportant to normal people, but collectors study it immediately. The absence of a mint mark connects this penny directly to Philadelphia production during one of the most stressful periods in American history. Under heavy minting pressure, dies wore down faster, surfaces developed differently, and coins entered circulation almost instantly. Many surviving examples became smooth, damaged, or chemically cleaned over the decades. That's why original pieces now create emotional bidding wars. The obverse side features Abraham Lincoln facing right with "In God We Trust" above his head, liberty to the left side, and the date 1918 to the right. There's no mint mark beneath the year, confirming its Philadelphia origin. On the reverse, the classic wheat ears stretch along both sides of the coin, surrounding 1 cent, and United States of America, while E pluribus unum curves across the top. Even after more than a century, this design still carries the feeling of old America in your hands. But what really shocks collectors is the surface. That grey-black layered appearance can actually increase fascination when the toning is natural and untouched. Most people think dark coins are worthless. Experienced buyers think differently. They know original oxidation, dirt buildup, and age layering tell a story that cleaned coins can never recover. Never clean this coin. The second someone scrubs away that antique surface, the emotional appeal disappears instantly. Thousands of dollars in collector demand can vanish forever with one careless cleaning attempt. And this detail changes everything. The 1,918 wheat penny is made from 95% copper, with the remaining 5% consisting mostly of tin and zinc. It weighs approximately 3.11 grams, measures 19.05 millimeters in diameter, and carries a thickness around 1.5 millimeters with a smooth, plain edge. When you hold one, it feels small and ordinary, which is exactly why hidden treasures like this continue slipping through circulation unnoticed. People accidentally spend these coins every day because they mistake age for damage. Most people miss the tiny details collectors obsess over. They inspect Lincoln's coat lines. They examine the sharpness of the wheat stalks. They study the exact shade of black, gray, and faded brown across the surface. Some collectors even prefer coins with heavy original toning because it proves the surface hasn't been stripped or altered. Quiet auction rooms suddenly become aggressive when two advanced collectors recognize an authentic, untouched example at the same time. This is not fiction, and the market pressure keeps growing. More collectors are hunting early wheat pennies than ever before, while surviving original examples continue disappearing into long-term collections. Many owners refuse to sell once they realize what they're holding. Supply shrinks. Demand rises. Prices climb silently in the background. That's why strong examples of the 1918 mint mark wheat penny have reached market values around $310,800 under the right conditions. Think about how insane that sounds. A 1-cent coin with a dark, dirty appearance secretly carrying life-changing wealth. This is hidden treasure hiding in plain sight. So if you ever come across a 1918 wheat penny, slow down immediately. Check for the missing mint mark. Study the surface carefully under light. Look for natural layered toning instead of shiny, cleaned metal. Never polish it. Never scrape the dirt away. And before making any decision, have the coin professionally graded, because authentication and originality can completely change the value story overnight. But don't leave yet, because the next wheat penny is even more shocking. One tiny feature on that next coin caused collectors to quietly panic during private sales, and the amount of money attached to it is something most people would never believe could exist on a single penny. The 1910 wheat penny without a mint mark is the kind of coin people accidentally throw away because it looks too old, too dark, and too worn to matter. And that mistake has quietly destroyed hidden fortunes for decades. The moment most people see that deep gray-black surface with a strange green spot on the reverse side, they assume the coin is damaged beyond value. But experienced collectors react very differently. Some of them become instantly obsessed because original aging on early wheat pennies is becoming harder to find every single year. This is the type of coin that sits unnoticed inside dusty jars, while serious buyers are paying shocking money behind closed doors. Do not spend this coin. And what makes this penny even more incredible is the world it came from. In 1910, America was entering a powerful industrial transformation. Factories were expanding, railroads were dominating transportation, and cash circulated heavily through growing cities and small-town businesses alike. Coins from this period weren't protected or saved. They were worked hard every day. The Philadelphia Mint produced these pennies under enormous demand, which meant many coins entered circulation immediately and suffered decades of wear. That's why surviving examples in very fine condition today feel almost impossible to find. And here's where the tension starts building. This coin carries no mint mark beneath the date, meaning it was struck in Philadelphia. To ordinary people, that tiny missing detail means nothing. To collectors, it changes the entire identity of the coin. Philadelphia wheat pennies from the early 1900s hold a special emotional weight because they connect directly to the original years of the Lincoln cent series. When collectors find one with authentic surfaces and strong detail still remaining after more than a century, auction behavior becomes aggressive fast. The obverse side shows Abraham Lincoln facing right with "In God We Trust" arching above him, "Liberty" resting to the left, and the date 1910 placed to the right. Flip the coin over, and you'll see the iconic wheat ears framing 1 cent and United States of America with E pluribus unum along the top edge. The design feels simple at first glance, but collectors examine every tiny line, every shadow, and every layer of toning, searching for originality. And this detail changes everything. That dark gray-black appearance, mixed with the green spot on the reverse side, can actually increase collector fascination if the surface remains natural and untouched. Most people panic when they see discoloration. Experienced buyers know those marks may represent decades of authentic oxidation and storage history. Original toning matters. Once the surface is cleaned, polished, or chemically treated, the emotional collector value can collapse instantly. Never clean this coin. One careless attempt to improve its appearance can permanently erase a hidden fortune. The physical details of this penny make the story even more incredible. The 1910 wheat penny is composed of 95% copper, with the remaining 5% primarily tin and zinc. It weighs approximately 3.11 grams, measures 19.05 millimeters in diameter, and carries a thickness near 1.5 millimeters with a smooth, plain edge. In the hand, it feels like an ordinary old cent. That's the dangerous part. People unknowingly spend coins like this because they underestimate how valuable history can become over time. Most people miss what collectors are truly hunting. They study the sharpness of Lincoln's hair. They inspect the wheat stalk lines on the reverse. They search for untouched texture around the lettering and date. Even that single green spot on the reverse side can become a conversation point because no two naturally aged coins tone the same way. Some collectors specifically chase darker, antique-looking wheat pennies because bright, cleaned examples feel artificial and lifeless by comparison. And demand is getting stronger quietly in the background. More collectors are entering the wheat penny market every year, while original early-date examples continue disappearing into private collections. Many owners refuse to sell once they realize what they're holding. Others send coins for professional grading and lock them away for decades. That shrinking supply is exactly why strong examples of the 1910 no mint mark wheat penny have reached market values around $360,400 under the right conditions. That is serious money attached to a coin most people would ignore as dirty pocket change. This is hidden wealth, silent fortune, a life-changing opportunity hiding in plain sight. So if you ever discover a 1910 wheat penny, stop immediately and inspect it carefully. Look for the missing mint mark beneath the date. Study the color under proper lighting. Never scrape away dark toning or green spots. Never polish the surface. And before selling or spending anything, professional grading is critical because authentication and condition can completely transform the coin's value story. But what comes next is even more unbelievable. The next wheat penny on this list has a reputation so intense that some collectors secretly call it the ghost coin because of one terrifying detail hidden in plain sight. And when you hear how much collectors have paid for it, you may never trust ordinary pennies again. Some of the most valuable wheat pennies in America are the exact coins people avoid touching because they look too dark, too old, and too ordinary. And the 1935 wheat penny is one of the biggest traps of them all. At first glance, this coin looks almost forgotten by time, covered in that deep gray-black appearance collectors quietly search for while everyday people toss coins like this into drawers, jars, or circulation without a second thought. That's the frightening part. Hidden treasure does not always shine. Sometimes it looks worn, shadowy, and completely ignored, until an experienced collector spots it instantly. Do not spend this coin. Now think about the timing behind this penny. In 1935, America was still fighting through the painful aftermath of the Great Depression. Money moved carefully. Families held onto every cent they could. Coins circulated heavily through factories, grocery stores, railroad stations, and small-town businesses trying to survive economic uncertainty. At the San Francisco Mint, marked by the small S beneath the date, production pressure remained intense as the country pushed toward recovery. Coins from this era were not protected. They were used hard for decades. That's why surviving examples in very fine condition have become incredibly desirable today. And this is where collector obsession begins. The moment a serious buyer sees an authentic 1935s wheat penny with natural dark surfaces, attention changes immediately. Collectors understand that many early pennies were cleaned aggressively over the years by people trying to make them appear shiny again. That cleaning destroyed originality forever. But untouched surfaces with deep gray-black aging tell a completely different story. They show honest survival. They show history. And collectors pay aggressively for that authenticity. Never clean this coin. Even a soft wipe can permanently damage the texture and reduce thousands of dollars in collector demand. The obverse side of the coin features Abraham Lincoln facing right with "In God We Trust," stretching across the upper rim. Liberty appears on the left side, while the date 1935 rests on the right with the important S mint mark directly beneath it. That tiny letter changes everything. Flip the coin over, and the famous wheat ears frame the words 1 cent and United States of America, while E pluribus unum curves across the top edge. This design became one of the most iconic coin designs in American history because it carried the nation through some of its hardest decades. But most people never notice the details collectors fight over. The 1935s wheat penny is made from 95% copper, with the remaining 5% primarily consisting of tin and zinc. It weighs approximately 3.11 grams, measures 19.05 millimeters in diameter, and has a thickness around 1.5 millimeters with a smooth, plain edge. In your hand, it feels small and harmless, exactly why these coins continue slipping through circulation unnoticed. People see a dirty old penny. Collectors see silent fortune hiding inside a century of American history. And this detail changes everything. Very fine condition examples still preserve noticeable detail in Lincoln's hair, coat lines, and wheat stalks, despite decades of circulation. That survival matters enormously because most 1935s pennies became heavily worn or damaged long ago. Serious collectors examine every tiny feature under magnification, looking for original texture, natural color transitions, and untouched surfaces. Some even prefer darker examples because the aging creates a dramatic antique appearance impossible to fake naturally. This is not fiction. Auction rooms become tense when authentic early San Francisco wheat pennies appear with strong eye appeal. Quiet bidding suddenly turns aggressive because experienced collectors know supply keeps shrinking every year. Many valuable examples disappear into private collections where they may not reappear for decades. Others are locked away after professional grading confirms authenticity and condition. That growing scarcity is exactly why collector demand keeps rising while ordinary people unknowingly spend these coins every single day. And the market value shocks almost everyone. Strong examples of the 1935s wheat penny with original surfaces and very fine condition have reached values around $270,900 under the right circumstances. Think about that carefully. A single penny with a dark gray-black appearance could secretly represent serious money and life-changing wealth. This is hidden treasure, hiding in plain sight, while millions of people overlook it completely. So before you spend another old penny, slow down and inspect it carefully. Check the date first. Then Look beneath it for the S mint mark. Study the surface under light and never assume dark toning means damage. Original toning matters. Never polish the coin. Never scrape the surface. And if you believe you've found a strong example, professional grading is critical because authenticity and preservation can completely transform the value overnight. But stay alert, because the next wheat penny on this list is even more shocking. One tiny detail on that next coin created such intense collector obsession that some buyers started calling it a pocket ghost fortune, after discovering how many people accidentally spent it before realizing what they had lost forever. There's a reason experienced collectors suddenly go quiet when a dark-looking 1,950 wheat penny appears on the table, because coins like this are still hiding in circulation right now, and people are unknowingly spending them like ordinary pocket change. That's what makes this penny so dangerous to ignore. The deep, dark surface, mixed with those strange green spots near the obverse edges, scares away average people instantly. Most assume the coin is dirty, damaged, or corroded beyond value. But collectors, they lean closer. They inspect every inch carefully, because sometimes the ugliest-looking coins carry the biggest hidden fortunes. Do not spend this coin. And the timing behind this penny makes the story even more incredible. The year 1950 placed America in a strange transition period. The country was moving out of post-World War II recovery and entering the tension of the Cold War era. Industry was booming again. Money flowed rapidly through the economy, and coins circulated heavily across factories, military communities, diners, and expanding suburbs. Pennies from this period were handled constantly, dropped into machines, shoved into pockets, and forgotten inside cash drawers. Very few survived with strong original surfaces still intact, especially examples carrying authentic dark toning and natural aging. And this detail changes everything. Because there's no mint mark beneath the date, this penny was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. That missing mint mark creates a unique obsession among wheat penny collectors who specialize in early Philadelphia issues. The absence of the mark may seem insignificant to normal people, but advanced collectors instantly recognize the importance. Coins from Philadelphia during this era often developed different strike textures and circulation patterns compared to Denver or San Francisco examples, and collectors study those differences intensely. The obverse side features Abraham Lincoln facing right with "In God We Trust" above his portrait, Liberty to the left side, and the date 1950 resting on the right without any mint mark beneath it. Flip the coin over, and the famous wheat ears frame the center lettering 1 cent and United States of America, while E pluribus unum curves across the upper edge. Even after decades, this design still carries that unmistakable old American feel collectors emotionally connect with. But the real fascination comes from the surface itself. That dark appearance combined with green spots around the obverse edges creates a look many collectors secretly love because it signals originality. Those green areas often develop naturally through decades of oxidation and environmental exposure. Most people panic and immediately try cleaning the coin. That mistake can destroy the value forever. Never clean this coin. Original toning matters more than shine. Once the natural surface is removed, the coin loses the historical character collectors fight over in auctions. And yes, collectors absolutely fight over coins like this. The 1950 wheat penny is composed of 95% copper, with the remaining 5% mostly tin and zinc. It weighs approximately 3.11 grams, measures 19.05 millimeters in diameter, and carries a thickness around 1.5 millimeters with a smooth, plain edge. Holding it feels ordinary, almost disappointingly ordinary, which is exactly why hidden treasures like this continue slipping through circulation unnoticed every single day. Most people miss the tiny details that separate a valuable example from a common one. Collectors inspect the sharpness of Lincoln's hair and cheek lines. They study the wheat stalk texture on the reverse side. They examine whether the dark toning flows naturally across the surface or appears artificially altered. Even the placement and color intensity of green spots can influence emotional bidding behavior because every naturally aged coin develops differently over time. Extra fine condition examples are especially important because they preserve stronger details while still carrying honest circulation history. This is not fiction. As wheat penny collecting explodes online, more people are searching bank rolls, jars, estate boxes, and old collections looking for hidden wealth. Meanwhile, advanced collectors continue locking away the best examples into long-term collections. Supply keeps shrinking quietly while demand keeps rising. That's exactly why strong, extra-fine examples of the 1950 no mint mark wheat penny with original surfaces have reached market values around $190,100 under the right conditions. Think about how unbelievable that sounds. A dirty-looking 1-cent coin with dark color and green edge spots could secretly hold life-changing money. Silent fortune hiding in plain sight. A coin most people would accidentally spend without hesitation. So before you ignore another old penny, slow down. Check the date carefully. Look for the missing mint mark. Study the surface under proper light and never assume dark color means low value. Never polish it. Never scrape away green spots. And if you suspect you found an important example, professional grading is critical because authenticity and surface preservation can completely transform the value story overnight. But what comes next is even more unbelievable. The next wheat penny on this list carries a reputation so shocking that some collectors literally refuse to carry it loose in their pockets anymore, because one tiny overlooked detail turned this ordinary-looking cent into a hidden fortune people accidentally lose every year. The 1919 wheat penny without a mint mark is the kind of coin people throw away because it looks too old to matter. And that single mistake has cost some people a hidden fortune they never even realized they had. This coin doesn't shine. It doesn't sparkle. It carries a dark black and deep red-brown antique appearance with rough pores scattered across the surface from age, dirt, and decades of circulation. Most people see damage. Serious collectors see history frozen inside metal. And right now, coins like this are still hiding in jars, drawers, and forgotten collections across America, waiting to be accidentally spent. Do not spend this coin. The story behind this penny is what makes it so emotionally powerful. In 1919, America was recovering from the devastation of World War I. Soldiers were returning home, industries were shifting again, and the entire country was trying to rebuild stability after years of pressure and uncertainty. Coins moved aggressively through the economy during that period because cash was essential everywhere. Factories, rail stations, corner stores, farms, and city markets. Pennies from 1919 were used hard from the very beginning. Few survived with original surfaces still untouched, especially examples carrying authentic antique aging. And this detail changes everything. Because this penny has no mint mark beneath the date, it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. That missing mint mark creates enormous collector interest because Philadelphia issues from the early wheat penny era connect directly to the original expansion years of Lincoln cents in American commerce. Advanced collectors study these coins obsessively, searching for survivors with honest age and original texture still remaining after more than a century. The obverse side shows Abraham Lincoln facing right with "In God We Trust," stretching above him, "Liberty" positioned on the left, and the date 1919 placed to the right side. Flip the coin over, and you'll find the iconic wheat ears framing 1 cent and United States of America, while "E pluribus unum" curves across the upper rim. At first glance, the design feels simple, but collectors inspect every tiny feature, looking for authenticity and originality hidden beneath the antique surface. And the surface on this coin is exactly why collectors become obsessed. That dark black and red-brown antique look, combined with numerous pores across the surface, tells a survival story impossible to recreate naturally. Those pores developed through decades of environmental exposure, oxidation, dirt accumulation, and aging. Most people panic when they see rough texture and discoloration. Collectors often do the opposite. They know original aged surfaces carry emotional value because they prove the coin survived naturally instead of being polished or chemically altered. Never clean this coin. The moment someone tries removing the dark layers or dirt, the historical character disappears forever. This is not fiction. The 1919 wheat penny is composed of 95% copper, with the remaining 5% primarily tin and zinc. It weighs approximately 3.11 grams, measures 19.05 millimeters in diameter, and carries a thickness around 1.5 millimeters with a smooth, plain edge. In your hand, it feels like an ordinary old cent, small, dark, and easy to overlook. That's what makes it such dangerous hidden treasure. People accidentally lose coins like this every day because they mistake age for worthlessness. But collectors notice details ordinary people never see. They inspect Lincoln's jawline under magnification. They study whether wheat lines remain visible through the dark toning. They analyze how the red-brown color blends into the black antique layers. Even the location of the surface pores becomes part of the coin's personality because every naturally aged example develops differently over time. Some collectors specifically chase heavily toned early wheat pennies because bright cleaned coins feel artificial and lifeless in comparison. And auction behavior around these coins has become intense. As more collectors enter the wheat penny market, original early-date coins are disappearing rapidly into private collections. Many owners refuse to sell once they understand the rarity attached to naturally aged survivors. Others send them for professional grading and lock them away permanently. Supply continues shrinking, while demand keeps rising quietly year after year. That pressure is exactly why strong examples of the 1919 no mint mark wheat penny with original antique surfaces have reached values around $420,300 under the right conditions. Think about that carefully. A dark, dirty-looking penny with rough surfaces and old-age pores could secretly represent life-changing money. Hidden wealth, sitting unnoticed in plain sight, while millions of people continue spending coins like this without hesitation. So before you toss aside another old wheat penny, stop immediately and inspect it carefully. Check the date first. Look for the missing mint mark. Study the surface under proper lighting, and never assume dark toning or pores mean low value. Originality matters. Never polish the coin. Never scrape away dirt or oxidation. And if you believe you found an important example, professional grading is critical because authentication and preservation can completely transform its collector value. But don't relax yet, because the next wheat penny on this list is even more terrifying to ignore. One tiny detail hidden on that next coin caused collectors to quietly battle behind the scenes for ownership, and the amount of money attached to it shocked even longtime coin experts. The 1943D wheat penny is one of those coins that can stop a collector's heartbeat for a second because the wrong person might spend it without even realizing they just lost a hidden fortune. And the frightening part is that these coins still appear in old jars, inherited collections, and forgotten coin rolls today. Most people glance at a 1943 penny and think it looks strange or fake compared to normal copper cents. But collectors know this year changed everything in American coin history. Do not spend this coin. The reason behind this penny is tied directly to World War II. In 1943, the United States needed massive amounts of copper for wartime equipment, ammunition, military wiring, and battlefield communication systems. The government made a dramatic decision that shocked the country at the time. Pennies would no longer be struck using their traditional copper composition. Instead, the mint switched to zinc-coated steel to preserve copper for the war effort. That emergency wartime change created one of the most famous and emotionally charged wheat pennies ever produced. And this is where the obsession begins. This specific coin carries the D mint mark beneath the date, meaning it was struck at the Denver Mint during one of the most intense production periods in U.S. history. Factories were running non-stop. Mint machinery faced enormous pressure. Coins had to be produced quickly to keep the wartime economy moving. That production stress created unique strike characteristics collectors study closely today, especially on extra-fine surviving examples. The obverse side features Abraham Lincoln facing right with "In God We Trust," arching above his portrait, Liberty positioned to the left, and the date 1943 to the right, with the small but extremely important D mint mark directly beneath it. Flip the coin over, and the classic wheat ears frame 1 cent and United States of America, while E pluribus unum curves across the upper edge. Even after decades, this wartime design still carries a powerful emotional weight because it represents sacrifice, survival, and national pressure. But what makes this coin so dangerous to overlook is the material itself. Unlike traditional copper wheat pennies, the 1943D penny was struck using steel coated with zinc. That composition gives the coin its distinct appearance and feel compared to ordinary cents. It weighs approximately 2.7 grams, instead of the normal 3.11 grams, measures 19.05 millimeters in diameter, and carries a thickness around 1.5 millimeters with a smooth, plain edge. The second collectors hold one. They know it belongs to one of the most unusual years in American coinage history. And this detail changes everything. Many surviving 1943 steel cents rusted, corroded, or became damaged over time because steel reacts differently to moisture and environmental exposure than copper. That's why extra-fine condition examples with strong surfaces and sharp details create serious excitement today. Collectors carefully inspect Lincoln's portrait, the wheat lines, and the texture of the zinc coating, searching for originality and preservation. Bright, clean surfaces can instantly destroy collector appeal. Never clean this coin. Once the natural texture is altered, the historical character disappears forever. Most people miss the tiny details collectors fight over. They examine whether the steel surfaces remain smooth or show environmental damage. They study strike sharpness around the lettering. They inspect the wheat ears for strong detail and original luster traces. Even slight differences in preservation can dramatically affect auction behavior because authentic wartime steel cents are becoming harder to find in strong condition every year. This is not fiction. Collectors emotionally chase 1,943D wheat pennies because they represent a moment when America changed its coinage under wartime pressure. That story alone creates intense demand. But as more coins disappear into long-term collections and professionally graded holders, supply continues shrinking quietly in the background. Many owners refuse to sell because they know how iconic these wartime pennies have become. That growing scarcity is exactly why strong, extra-fine examples of the 1,943D wheat penny have reached market values around $140,800 under the right conditions. Think about that for a moment. A tiny wartime penny people still mistake for ordinary change could secretly hold serious money and hidden wealth. So before you ignore another old 1,943 cent, slow down immediately. Check the date carefully. Look beneath it for the D mint mark. Feel the weight difference compared to normal copper pennies. Never polish the surface. Never remove aging or discoloration. And if you think you found an important example, professional grading is critical because authentication and condition can completely transform the value story overnight. But stay with me, because the next wheat penny on this list is even more unbelievable. One nearly invisible detail on that next coin caused collectors to panic during private auctions after realizing how many people had unknowingly spent them for decades. The 1,952D wheat penny is one of those dangerous little coins people underestimate because it doesn't look perfect. In fact, the scratches across the obverse and reverse sides make many people believe the coin has no serious value left at all. And that exact mistake is why hidden fortunes continue slipping through circulation unnoticed. Collectors don't always chase flawless beauty. Sometimes they chase survival, originality, and history, trapped inside a coin that clearly lived through decades of real American life. That dark red-brown appearance on a genuine 1,952D wheat penny can instantly grab the attention of experienced buyers who know what most people completely miss. Do not spend this coin. The timing behind this penny makes its story even more intense. In 1952, America was deep inside the pressure of the Korean War era. Industrial production remained extremely high. Military spending was enormous, and the economy was moving at incredible speed. Coins circulated constantly through factories, military bases, restaurants, rail stations, and expanding suburban communities. At the Denver Mint, marked by the small d beneath the date, production lines worked heavily to meet national demand. That intense minting activity created coins that experienced rapid circulation wear almost immediately after release. And this detail changes everything, because this penny survived all those decades while still holding extra-fine detail and original dark red-brown surfaces. That combination creates strong collector fascination today. Many surviving examples from the early 1950s were polished, cleaned, or chemically brightened by people trying to make them appear newer. But serious collectors often prefer coins with natural aging because originality tells the real story of the coin's life. Even the scratches matter. Those marks prove the coin traveled through circulation honestly instead of being artificially preserved. The obverse side features Abraham Lincoln facing right with "In God We Trust" above his portrait, Liberty to the left, and the date 1952 positioned on the right with the important D mint mark beneath it. Flip the coin over and the famous wheat ears frame 1 cent and United States of America, while E pluribus unum curves across the upper edge. The design remained one of the most recognizable symbols of American coinage because generations of families handled these pennies every single day. But collectors become obsessed with the smallest details. The 1952D wheat penny is made from 95% copper, with the remaining 5% primarily consisting of zinc and tin. It weighs approximately 3.11 grams, measures 19.05 millimeters in diameter, and carries a thickness around 1.5 millimeters with a smooth, plain edge. In your hand, it feels ordinary, almost too ordinary to matter. That's exactly why valuable examples continue getting accidentally spent or forgotten in old containers across the country. And the scratches on this coin tell a story most people ignore. Collectors study whether the scratches happened naturally through circulation or from harsh cleaning attempts. Natural circulation marks, combined with untouched surfaces, can still carry strong collector demand, especially when the coin retains sharp wheat lines and visible detail in Lincoln's portrait. Extra fine condition examples remain highly desirable because so many coins from this era became badly worn after decades of heavy use. This is not fiction. Auction rooms often become surprisingly competitive over authentic, dark-toned wheat pennies with strong original surfaces. Collectors know that no two coins age exactly the same way. Some develop rich chocolate red tones, while others carry darker antique shades that create a dramatic historical appearance. And as more people search for valuable pennies online, the best surviving examples are disappearing rapidly into long-term collections. That shrinking supply is pushing values higher quietly in the background. Strong, extra-fine examples of the 1952D wheat penny with original dark red-brown surfaces have reached market values around $150,700 under the right conditions. Think about that carefully. A scratched old penny people might ignore at a grocery store could secretly hold serious money and hidden wealth. This is silent fortune hiding in plain sight, while ordinary people unknowingly lose coins like this every single year. So before you spend another wheat penny, slow down and inspect it closely. Check the date carefully. Look beneath it for the demint mark. Study the surface under light and never assume scratches automatically destroy value. Originality matters far more than artificial shine. Never polish the coin. Never clean away dark toning. And if you suspect you found an important example, professional grading is critical because authentication and preservation can completely change the value story overnight. But don't go anywhere, because the next wheat penny on this list is even more shocking. One tiny feature hidden on that next coin created such intense collector obsession that some buyers quietly called it the accidental retirement penny, after discovering how many people unknowingly spent them before realizing the fortune they lost. The 1944 wheat penny, without a mint mark, is one of the biggest hidden traps in American coin collecting because it looks exactly like the kind of penny most people would ignore forever. Dark black antique color, heavy aging, scratches on both sides, worn appearance. To ordinary people, it looks damaged and worthless. But to serious collectors, a naturally aged 1944 penny with original surfaces can feel like discovering buried treasure hiding in plain sight. And the frightening part is that people still accidentally spend these coins every single day without realizing they may be throwing away serious money. Do not spend this coin. The reason this penny became so important starts with World War II. In 1944, America was still deeply involved in the war effort, but something major changed inside the US. Mint. The year before, in 1943 pennies had been struck using zinc-coated steel to save copper for wartime needs. But by 1944, the mint returned to copper-based coin production using recycled wartime shell casings and recovered copper materials. That dramatic transition created one of the most emotionally fascinating periods in wheat penny history, because these coins literally carried the metal of wartime America. And this detail changes everything. Because this coin has no mint mark beneath the date, it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint during that historic wartime transition. Collectors become obsessed with Philadelphia 1944 wheat pennies because they represent the return of copper cents after the unusual steel cents of 1943. That historical connection alone creates intense collector demand, especially for surviving examples with original antique surfaces still intact. The obverse side features Abraham Lincoln facing right with "In God We Trust" above his head, "Liberty" to the left, and the date 1944 to the right without a mint mark beneath it. On the reverse side, the famous wheat ears frame the bold 1 cent lettering along with United States of America, while a pluribus unum curves across the upper edge. Even heavily circulated examples still carry the unmistakable personality of old American coinage. But what truly fascinates collectors is the surface itself. That dark black antique appearance, combined with scratches across both sides, tells a survival story impossible to fake naturally. Most people panic when they see scratches and discoloration. Experienced buyers often react differently. They understand that honest circulation wear and untouched surfaces can still hold enormous emotional value because they prove the coin survived decades of real American history. Some collectors actually prefer darker, antique-looking wheat pennies because bright, cleaned coins feel lifeless and artificial in comparison. Never clean this coin. The second someone attempts to polish away that antique surface, the historical character begins disappearing forever. Original toning matters enormously in the wheat penny world. Even the scratches themselves are studied closely because collectors want to know whether they came from normal circulation or destructive cleaning attempts. The 1944 wheat penny is made from 95% copper, with the remaining 5% mostly zinc and tin. It weighs approximately 3.11 grams, measures 19.05 millimeters in diameter, and carries a thickness around 1.5 millimeters with a smooth, plain edge. In your hand, it feels completely ordinary, and that's exactly why hidden treasures like this continue slipping through circulation unnoticed today. Most people miss the tiny details collectors obsess over. They inspect Lincoln's cheek lines. They examine the wheat stalk definition. They study how the black antique color flows naturally across the surface under lighting. Even small surviving details in almost fine condition can trigger strong bidding competition because early wartime-era wheat pennies are becoming harder to locate with authentic, untouched surfaces. This is not fiction. As more collectors search for historically important wheat pennies, original 1944 Philadelphia examples are quietly disappearing into private collections and professionally graded holders. Supply continues shrinking while demand keeps rising year after year. Some collectors hold these coins for decades because they believe untouched wartime wheat pennies will become even harder to replace in the future. That growing pressure is exactly why strong original examples of the 1944 no mint mark wheat penny with antique surfaces have reached market values around $210,900 under the right conditions. Think about how unbelievable that sounds. A scratched, dark penny most people would overlook in seconds could secretly carry life-changing wealth. This is hidden treasure. silent fortune hiding in plain sight. So before you spend another old penny, stop immediately and inspect it carefully. Check the date first. Look for the missing mint mark beneath it. Study the color and surface texture under proper light. Never scrape away dark toning. Never polish the coin. And if you believe you found a valuable example, professional grading is critical because authenticity and original preservation can completely transform the value story overnight. But stay alert, because the next wheat penny on this list is even more unbelievable. One nearly invisible detail on that next coin caused collectors to quietly fight over ownership after realizing how many examples had already been accidentally lost forever in circulation. Next up, a 1958D wheat penny is the kind of coin most people don't even pause for, and that's exactly why it quietly slips out of sight while collectors keep searching for it like buried treasure. At first glance, this penny looks ordinary, maybe even a little rough. That red-brown surface mixed with green spotting on both sides can make it seem damaged or worthless to an untrained eye. But experienced collectors see something very different, a late-era wheat penny that survived the final chapter of a historic American coin series. And that alone makes it dangerous to ignore. Do not spend this coin. This coin comes from a very important turning point in U.S. history. By 1958, America was at the end of the wheat penny era. The country was booming economically, suburbs were expanding, and cash was flowing through everyday life at a massive scale. But this was also the final year of the wheat cent, before it was replaced in 1959 by the Lincoln Memorial reverse design. That means every 1958 wheat penny represents the closing moment of a coin design that had lasted almost half a century. Collectors don't just see a penny, they see the final heartbeat of an entire generation of U.S. coinage. And this detail changes everything. The D mint mark beneath the date confirms it was struck at the Denver Mint, where production in the late 1950s was extremely high to support a rapidly growing American economy. Coins were produced in huge numbers, but survival in strong, attractive condition is what separates ordinary pieces from valuable collector targets today. Even though 1958 is considered a modern wheat penny year, truly eye-catching, extra-fine examples with original surfaces are becoming harder to locate than most people realize. The obverse side features Abraham Lincoln facing right with "In God We Trust" above his portrait, "Liberty" to the left, and the date 1958 on the right with the small D mint mark beneath it. On the reverse side, the classic wheat ears frame the bold 1 cent inscription and United States of America with E pluribus unum curved across the top. It's a design millions of Americans once handled daily, never realizing some of these coins would become collectible treasures decades later. But what really pulls collectors in is the surface story. That red-brown base color, combined with green spots on both sides, creates a natural aging pattern that tells a long circulation history. Most people mistake this for damage. Collectors often recognize it as environmental toning that formed over decades of handling, storage, and exposure. These natural patterns are impossible to recreate perfectly, which is why originality matters so much in the coin market. Never clean this coin. Once the surface is altered, the coin loses its authentic historical character instantly. The 1958D wheat penny is composed of 95% copper, with the remaining 5% consisting mainly of zinc and tin. It weighs approximately 3.11 grams, measures 19.05 millimeters in diameter, and carries a thickness around 1.5 millimeters with a smooth, plain edge. In hand, it feels completely ordinary, light, simple, almost forgettable. That's exactly what makes it dangerous. People spend coins like this every day without realizing they might be spending something valuable. Collectors, however, see beyond the surface. They inspect the sharpness of Lincoln's hair and jawline. They study the wheat stalk definition on the reverse. They examine whether the green spotting is natural toning or corrosion damage. Even in extra-fine condition, small details like surface integrity, strike sharpness, and original color balance can dramatically influence collector demand. Late wheat pennies with strong eye appeal are especially desirable because many were heavily circulated and poorly stored over the decades. This is not fiction. As wheat penny collecting continues to grow worldwide, late series coins like the 1958D are being pulled into collections faster than ever before. Many remain locked away in albums, safety boxes, or inherited collections where they may not reappear for decades. But shrinking availability is exactly why strong, extra-fine examples with natural red-brown toning and original surfaces have reached market values around $160,100 under the right conditions. Think about that for a moment. A coin that looks slightly dirty and worn could secretly represent serious money, hidden wealth, sitting unnoticed in everyday circulation, while most people never give it a second look. So if you ever come across a 1958D wheat penny, don't rush past it. Check the date carefully. Look for the D mint mark beneath it. Study the surface under proper lighting, and don't assume green spots or toning automatically mean low value. Never polish it. Never scrub it. And if you believe you've found a strong example, professional grading is essential because authentication and preservation can completely change its collector value. But don't go anywhere yet, because the next wheat penny is even more surprising. One final detail hidden on that next coin has made collectors call it a silent jackpot penny after realizing how many of them were spent, ignored, or lost forever without anyone noticing. Next up, a 1956D. Wheat penny doesn't look like something that should make anyone stop in their tracks, and that's exactly how hidden value keeps slipping away. Most people see a simple brown penny with heavy black antique spots on both sides and assume it's just another worn coin from the past. But in the world of collectors, that kind of natural aging can actually signal something far more powerful: originality that survived decades of circulation untouched. And coins like this are still being spent every day without a second thought. Do not spend this coin. The story of the 1956 penny sits in a very interesting moment in American history. By 1956, the United States was deep into post-World War II expansion. The economy was growing, suburbs were booming, and everyday commerce depended heavily on small change. Pennies moved constantly through gas stations, diners, factories, and family-owned stores. At the Denver Mint, marked by the D beneath the date, production continued at high speed to keep up with national demand. Millions of coins were struck, but very few survived. Decades later, with strong original surfaces and extra fine detail like this one. And this is where collectors become alert. The D mint mark is not just a small letter, it's a direct link to Denver production standards during a high-output era of American coinage. Many 1956D pennies were heavily circulated and later cleaned or damaged over time, which makes naturally preserved examples far more interesting today. When a coin still holds its original brown tone, with deep black antique spotting, collectors immediately inspect it more closely because that surface tells a story that cannot be artificially recreated. The obverse side features Abraham Lincoln facing right with "In God We Trust" above his portrait, "Liberty" to the left, and the date 1956 on the right with the small D mint mark just below it. On the reverse, the familiar wheat ears frame 1 cent and United States of America, while "E pluribus unum" arches across the top. It's a design that once passed through millions of hands every single day across America without anyone realizing its future value. But what makes this coin feel different is the surface itself. That heavy brown base, mixed with large black antique spots on both sides, is not just visual damage, it can be natural environmental toning formed over decades of circulation, storage, and oxidation. Most people panic when they see these marks. Collectors often see authenticity. The key factor is whether the surface remains original. Once a coin is cleaned or polished, those natural patterns disappear forever. Never clean this coin. Even a light attempt to improve its appearance can permanently destroy collector value. The 1956D wheat penny is composed of 95% copper, with the remaining 5% consisting mainly of zinc and tin. It weighs approximately 3.11 grams, measures 19.05 millimeters in diameter, and has a thickness around 1.5 millimeters with a smooth, plain edge. In the hand, it feels completely ordinary, small, simple, and easy to overlook. That's exactly why valuable examples still get spent without hesitation. Collectors, however, don't see ordinary. They examine the depth of Lincoln's facial details. They inspect how the wheat stalks hold their definition under magnification. They study whether the black spots are stable toning or signs of corrosion. Even in extra-fine condition, these small visual clues can significantly influence demand. Coins that retain honest circulation history while still preserving strong detail are often the most emotionally appealing to advanced buyers. This is not fiction. As wheat penny collecting continues to grow, more collectors are pulling mid-1950s Denver mint coins into long-term holdings. That means fewer strong examples remain available on the open market. Supply continues to shrink while demand quietly increases year after year. Many owners hold on to these coins once they realize their condition and historical significance. That growing scarcity is exactly why strong, extra-fine 1956D wheat pennies with natural brown tone and antique spotting have reached market values around $170,300 under the right conditions. A coin that looks dark, worn, and forgotten could actually represent serious hidden wealth sitting unnoticed in everyday circulation. So if you ever find a 1956D wheat penny, don't ignore it. Check the date carefully. Look for the D mint mark beneath it. Study the surface under proper lighting, and don't assume dark spots automatically mean damage. Never polish the coin. Never remove its natural aging. And if you believe you found a strong example, professional grading is essential because authentication and preservation can completely transform its value story. But don't stop here, because the next wheat penny is even more unexpected. One subtle detail on that final coin has caused collectors to call it a silent sleeper jackpot, after realizing how many of them were spent decades ago without anyone ever noticing their true worth. Next up, a 1938 wheat penny without a mint mark is the kind of coin that quietly disappears in plain sight, because most people think a dark, dirty, black-toned penny has no reason to matter. But that assumption is exactly what keeps hidden treasures moving through everyday circulation unnoticed. This coin often shows a heavy antique look, deep black surfaces, worn edges, and a forgotten appearance that makes it look like it should be thrown away. Yet in the collector world, coins like this can carry serious attention when the surface is original and untouched. And right now, people are still spending them without realizing what they might be letting go. Do not spend this coin. The story behind the 1938 wheat penny sits in a very important moment in American coin history. By 1938, the United States was slowly recovering from the Great Depression. Industry was stabilizing, employment was improving, and daily cash circulation was increasing again across cities and small towns. Pennies were used heavily in everyday transactions: gas stations, corner stores, diners, rail stops, and factory towns. The Philadelphia Mint produced large quantities of coins during this time, meaning millions entered circulation quickly and were handled constantly for decades. That heavy usage is exactly why surviving examples with strong original detail and natural aging are now much harder to find than most people expect. And this detail changes everything. Because this coin has no mint mark beneath the date, it confirms Philadelphia Mint production. To casual eyes, that means nothing. To collectors, it places the coin in a specific production category from the late pre-war era of wheat pennies, an era that is increasingly collected for its historical importance and surviving originality. When a 1938 penny shows strong detail despite decades of wear, collectors immediately take notice because most examples were either heavily circulated or improperly cleaned long ago. The obverse side features Abraham Lincoln facing right with "In God We Trust" above his portrait, "Liberty" to the left, and the date 1938 to the right, with no mint mark beneath it. The reverse's side displays the iconic wheat ears framing 1 cent and United States of America, with E pluribus unum arched across the top. It's a design that represents an entire generation of American everyday life, passed through millions of hands without anyone realizing some examples would later become valuable collectibles. But what truly makes this coin stand out is its surface condition. That dark, black antique look, combined with dirty, fine condition, creates a strong visual identity that experienced collectors recognize instantly. Most people assume dirt and black toning reduce value, but when the surface is natural and untouched, it can actually increase collector interest because it confirms authenticity and long-term survival. Never clean this coin. The moment that original surface is removed, the historical character is permanently damaged and collector value can drop dramatically. The 1938 wheat penny is composed of 95% copper, with the remaining 5% consisting mainly of zinc and tin. It weighs approximately 3.11 grams, measures 19.05 millimeters in diameter, and carries a thickness around 1.5 millimeters with a smooth, plain edge. In your hand, it feels ordinary, small, simple, and easy to overlook. That ordinary feeling is exactly what allows coins like this to continue slipping through circulation unnoticed. Collectors, however, look much deeper. They study Lincoln's facial details under magnification. They inspect the wheat stalk definition for remaining sharpness. They analyze whether the black antique toning is stable and natural or the result of corrosion. Even in fine condition, a coin that retains original surface structure can attract serious attention because it reflects honest survival through decades of use. This is not fiction. As wheat penny collecting grows globally, early Philadelphia issues like the 1938 are increasingly being absorbed into long-term private collections. Many of these coins are no longer appearing in circulation at all. Supply continues to shrink while demand quietly rises. That imbalance is exactly why strong examples of the 1938 no mint mark wheat penny with original dark antique surfaces have reached market values around $230,800 under the right conditions. Think about that carefully. A dark, dirty-looking penny that most people would ignore could actually represent hidden wealth sitting unnoticed in everyday life. Silent fortune disguised as ordinary change. So if you ever come across a 1938 wheat penny, slow down immediately. Check the date. Confirm the missing mint mark. Study the surface under proper lighting, and never assume dark toning means low value. Never polish it. Never scrub away the antique look. And if you believe you have a strong example, professional grading is essential because authentication and preservation can completely change its value story overnight. But this isn't the end, because the next wheat penny is even more unexpected. One subtle detail on that final coin has made collectors call it a vanishing jackpot after realizing how many were spent and lost long before anyone understood their true worth. Next up, a 1935 wheat penny without a mint mark is the kind of coin people barely notice in their hands, especially when it shows a rough bronze surface with visible scratches on both sides and a damaged, aged appearance. Most would call it just an old penny and move on. But in the collector world, that exact combination, natural bronze tone, heavy circulation marks, and untouched originality, is where hidden value often survives unnoticed. And right now, coins like this are still quietly moving through everyday transactions, completely underestimated. Do not spend this coin. The emotional weight of this coin comes from the era it was born in. In 1935, America was still deep inside the Great Depression recovery period. Money was tight, jobs were rebuilding slowly, and every cent carried real importance in daily life. Pennies were not saved. They were used, reused, and passed through countless hands in harsh economic conditions. That means most 1935 wheat pennies experienced intense circulation stress from the very beginning. Very few survive today in a way that still preserves their original structure, even in damaged or heavily worn condition. And this detail changes everything. Because this coin carries no mint mark, it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. That makes it part of the core production of early wheat pennies during one of the most financially difficult decades in American history. Philadelphia issues from this period are especially important to collectors because they represent the foundation years of mass coin circulation in modern U.S. commerce. Even heavily worn examples still attract attention when authenticity and original metal surface remain intact. The obverse side shows Abraham Lincoln facing right, with "In God We Trust" arched above, Liberty placed on the left side, and the date 1935 positioned to the right, with no mint mark beneath it. On the reverse side, the classic wheat ears frame 1 cent and United States of America, while E pluribus unum curves across the top. Even in damaged condition, this design remains one of the most recognizable symbols of early American coinage. But what makes this coin so interesting is its surface story. That bronze look, combined with scratches on both obverse and reverse, creates a harsh but honest survival pattern. Most people see damage. Collectors see history that was never erased or artificially restored. Scratches can come from decades of circulation, cash draws, pocket movement, metal contact, and storage in mixed coin environments. When the surface is not cleaned or polished, even damaged coins can retain collector interest because they preserve original metal integrity. Never clean this coin. That warning matters more than people realize. Cleaning removes natural oxidation layers and destroys the original bronze surface structure that collectors study under magnification. Once altered, the coin loses its historical authenticity, and value potential can drop dramatically. The 1935 wheat penny is composed of 95% copper, with the remaining 5% consisting mainly of zinc and tin. It weighs approximately 3.11 grams, measures 19.05 millimeters in diameter, and has a thickness around 1.5 millimeters with a smooth, plain edge. In hand, it feels simple and unremarkable, small, worn, and easy to overlook. That ordinary feeling is exactly why coins like this continue slipping through circulation unnoticed. Collectors, however, analyze far deeper than surface damage. They inspect whether the scratches are natural circulation marks or signs of post-mint damage. They examine the wheat stalk detail for remaining definition. They look for consistent bronze toning that suggests original aging rather than artificial treatment. Even in damaged condition, coins that maintain natural surfaces can still generate strong interest because they represent authentic survival through nearly a century of history. This is not fiction. As wheat penny collecting grows, early Depression-era coins, like the 1935 Philadelphia issue, are increasingly being absorbed into private collections and long-term holdings. Many examples never return to the open market once identified by serious collectors. That shrinking availability is exactly why strong original bronze examples, even with scratches and damage, can still reach market values around $290,900 under the right conditions. Think about that carefully. A scratched, worn penny most people would dismiss instantly could actually represent hidden wealth sitting unnoticed in everyday circulation. Silent fortune, hiding inside something ordinary enough to be spent without a second thought. So if you ever come across a 1935 wheat penny, stop immediately and inspect it carefully. Check the date. Confirm the missing mint mark. Study the surface under proper lighting and never assume scratches automatically eliminate value. Never polish it. Never try to improve its appearance. And if you believe you've found a significant example, professional grading is critical because authentication and preservation can completely change its value story overnight. But this journey isn't over yet, because the next wheat penny is even more surprising. One final detail hidden in that next coin has caused collectors to call it a silent phantom value cent, after discovering how many were unknowingly spent and lost before anyone realized their true worth. Next up, a 1946 wheat penny without a mint mark hits differently the moment you see it in the light, because most people don't see a collectible coin. They see something dark, worn, almost forgotten. That heavy black antique tone, mixed with green spots on both sides, plus scratches cutting across the surface, makes it look like it should have no value left at all. And that's exactly why coins like this keep slipping through everyday hands unnoticed. People toss them, ignore them, even spend them without a second thought, not realizing they might be releasing hidden wealth into circulation. Do not spend this coin. But the story behind this penny carries real post-war energy. In 1946, America was stepping out of World War II and entering a new era of rapid rebuilding. Soldiers were returning home. Factories were switching from military production back to consumer goods, and the entire economy was reshaping itself at full speed. Coins were moving constantly through a revived nation. Restaurants, rail stations, industrial centers, and growing suburban markets. Every penny was heavily used, and very few survived decades later with original surfaces still intact in any recognizable condition. And this detail changes everything. Because this coin has no mint mark, it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint during a critical transition period in American history. Philadelphia issues from the immediate post-war years are heavily studied because they represent the moment the United States shifted from wartime production to a booming peacetime economy. That transition created massive circulation pressure, which is exactly why surviving wheat pennies from this era often show intense wear, dark toning, and environmental surface changes like the ones seen on this coin. The obverse side features Abraham Lincoln facing right with "In God We Trust" arched above his portrait, Liberty on the left, and the date 1946 on the right with no mint mark beneath it. The reverse side shows the classic wheat ears framing 1 cent and United States of America with "E pluribus unum" across the top. Even heavily worn examples still carry the emotional weight of mid-century American coinage that once passed through millions of hands every day. But what makes this coin stand out is its surface condition. That dark black antique look, combined with green spots on both obverse and reverse sides, creates a dramatic aging pattern collectors instantly recognize. Most people assume this means damage or corrosion. But in the collecting world, natural toning and environmental aging, when stable, can actually confirm authenticity and long-term survival. The scratches across the surface add another layer of history, showing decades of circulation rather than artificial alteration. Never clean this coin. Removing that natural surface would erase its identity and destroy its collector appeal instantly. The 1946 wheat penny is composed of 95% copper, with the remaining 5% made up primarily of zinc and tin. It weighs approximately 3.11 grams, measures 19.05 millimeters in diameter, and has a thickness of around 1.5 millimeters with a smooth, plain edge. In hand, it feels simple and unremarkable, small, dark, and easy to overlook. That's exactly why coins like this continue disappearing into circulation without recognition. Collectors, however, see something completely different. They study the depth of Lincoln's portrait under magnification. They inspect the wheat stalks for remaining definition. They evaluate whether the green spotting is stable toning or active corrosion. Even in almost fine condition, a coin that retains honest original surface history can still attract strong attention because it reflects real-world survival rather than artificial restoration. This is not fiction. As wheat penny collecting continues to expand, post-war Philadelphia issues like the 1946 are being pulled into long-term collections at a rapid pace. Many of the strongest examples are already locked away in private holdings, never to return to open circulation. That shrinking supply is exactly why demand continues to grow quietly but aggressively behind the scenes. And that pressure is what drives value. Strong examples of the 1946 no mint mark wheat penny with original dark toning, green surface spotting, and almost fine condition have reached market values around $330,900 under the right conditions. Think about that for a moment. What looks like a damaged, forgotten penny could actually represent serious hidden wealth sitting unnoticed in everyday life. So if you ever come across a 1946 wheat penny, stop immediately. Check the date. Confirm the missing mint mark. Study the surface under proper lighting and never assume dark color, scratches, or green spots mean low value. Never polish it. Never try to restore it. And if you believe you've found a strong example, professional grading is essential because authentication and preservation can completely transform its value story overnight. But the journey isn't over yet, because the next wheat penny is even more unexpected. One final coin carries a detail so overlooked that collectors only recently started realizing how many of them were spent and lost forever without anyone noticing their true worth. Next up, a 1918 wheat penny without a mint mark is the kind of coin that looks completely ordinary at first glance, but becomes dangerously interesting the moment you realize how many of these have been thrown away, spent, or ignored for over a century. This example shows clear signs of age: heavy scratches across both sides, green spots spreading on the surface, and a worn, fine-condition look that most people would instantly dismiss as damaged. And that's exactly where hidden treasure hides in plain sight. Do not spend this coin. To understand why this coin matters, you have to step back into 1918. America was in the final year of World War I. The entire nation was under pressure, factories running non-stop, materials being rationed, and everyday life shaped by wartime urgency. Coins circulated constantly through military bases, rail networks, industrial cities, and small-town economies supporting the war effort. Nothing was preserved. Nothing was saved. Pennies like this were used until they were physically worn down by daily survival. And this detail changes everything. Because this coin has no mint mark, it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint during one of the most intense historical periods in U.S. coin production. Philadelphia wheat pennies from 1918 are especially important to collectors because they represent early Lincoln cent circulation during wartime America. Surviving examples in any collectible condition are increasingly harder to locate, especially ones that still retain original surfaces and identifiable detail despite heavy wear. The obverse side features Abraham Lincoln facing right with "In God We Trust" arched above, liberty on the left, and the date 1918 on the right with no mint mark beneath it. The reverse side displays the iconic wheat ears framing 1 cent and United States of America with E pluribus unum across the top. Even in worn condition, this design carries powerful historical identity because it represents early 20th century American coinage still in its original form. But what makes this coin so compelling is the surface condition itself. The combination of scratches and green spotting on both obverse and reverse tells a long environmental history. These marks often develop from decades of circulation, storage, oxidation, and contact with other metals. Most people see this as damage. Collectors often see authenticity, proof that the coin was never artificially polished or altered. Never clean this coin. Removing those natural layers destroys originality and permanently damages collector appeal. The 1918 wheat penny is composed of 95% copper, with the remaining 5% made up of zinc and tin. It weighs approximately 3.11 grams, measures 19.05 millimeters in diameter, and has a thickness around 1.5 millimeters with a smooth, plain edge. In the hand, it feels small, simple, and unimportant. Exactly the kind of coin people spend without a second thought. But collectors see deeper than appearance. They inspect Lincoln's portrait for remaining structure under wear. They analyze wheat stalk outlines for surviving detail. They study green spotting patterns to determine whether the coin's aging is natural or corrosive. Even in fine condition, a 1918 wheat penny with honest wear and original surface integrity can attract strong collector attention because early wartime issues are becoming increasingly scarce. This is not fiction. As interest in early Lincoln cents continues to grow, 1,918 Philadelphia wheat pennies are steadily being pulled into long-term private collections. Many of the better examples no longer appear in circulation at all. That shrinking availability is what drives collector demand higher year after year, especially for coins that still display recognizable detail despite age and wear. And that scarcity directly affects value. Strong, fine-condition examples of the 1,918 no mint mark wheat penny with scratches, green spotting, and original aged surfaces have reached market values around $410,100 under the right conditions. That means a coin most people would ignore as damaged pocket change could secretly represent life-changing money. So if you ever find a 1,918 wheat penny, stop immediately. Check the date carefully. Confirm the missing mint mark. Study the surface under proper lighting and never assume scratches or green spots make it worthless. Never polish it. Never try to fix it. And if you suspect it may be significant, professional grading is essential because authentication and preservation can completely change its value story overnight. But this isn't the end, because the next wheat penny is even more unbelievable. One final coin carries a detail so rare that collectors only recently began realizing how many of them were spent and lost forever without anyone ever noticing their true worth. Next up, a 1,912 wheat penny without a mint mark doesn't look like something that should ever stop you in your tracks until you realize how few of these have survived in a way collectors actually want to see. This one shows a deep blue-black and dark antique tone, mixed with a dirty, aged surface that most people would instantly reject as worthless. But that's the exact mistake that keeps hidden value circulating unnoticed every single day. People spend coins like this without a second thought. Not knowing they might be releasing something collectors would fight over quietly in the background. Do not spend this coin. To understand why this penny carries such weight, you have to go back to 1912. America was in a completely different era, pre-World War I, early industrial expansion, and a rapidly growing economy. Cities were expanding, railroads were still the backbone of transportation, and everyday commerce depended heavily on small change. Coins moved constantly through busy hands, factories, markets, and early urban life. Nothing was preserved for nostalgia at the time. Pennies like this were used until they were completely worn, which is why surviving examples today are so emotionally powerful to collectors. And this detail changes everything. Because this coin has no mint mark, it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint during the early years of the Lincoln Cent series. That alone places it in a foundational era of American coinage history. Early Philadelphia wheat pennies are heavily studied because they represent the original production standards of the series before decades of design wear, die changes, and mass circulation effects altered later issues. Coins from this period that still retain recognizable detail, especially in original aged condition, are becoming increasingly scarce. The obverse side shows Abraham Lincoln facing right with "In God We Trust" above his portrait, liberty to the left, and the date 1912 to the right with no mint mark beneath it. The reverse displays the iconic wheat ears framing 1 cent and United States of America with a pluribus unum curved across the top. Even heavily worn examples still carry the strong visual identity that defines early American cent design. But what makes this coin stand out is the surface condition itself. That dark, blue-black antique appearance, combined with dirty old toning, creates a dramatic aging pattern that tells a long, uninterrupted survival story. Over decades, copper reacts to air, moisture, handling, and storage conditions, producing layered oxidation that can range from brown to deep black tones. Most people see this as damage. Collectors often see originality. Never clean this coin. The moment that natural surface is altered, the historical integrity disappears completely, and collector interest can drop dramatically. The 1912 wheat penny is composed of 95% copper, with the remaining 5% consisting mainly of zinc and tin. It weighs approximately 3.11 grams, measures 19.05 millimeters in diameter, and has a thickness around 1.5 millimeters with a smooth, plain edge. In hand, it feels simple and unremarkable, small, dark, and easy to overlook. That's exactly why coins like this continue slipping through circulation unnoticed. Collectors, however, analyze every detail. They study the depth of Lincoln's portrait under magnification. They inspect whether wheat stalk lines remain visible through heavy toning. They evaluate whether the dark surface is stable natural oxidation or signs of environmental damage. Even in old condition, early wheat pennies with authentic surfaces can generate strong collector attention because they represent the earliest surviving stages of the Lincoln cent series. This is not fiction. As collector demand for early wheat pennies continues to rise, 1912 Philadelphia issues are becoming increasingly difficult to find in any form of original preserved condition. Many have already been absorbed into private collections or removed from circulation entirely. That shrinking availability is what continues to drive long-term collector interest higher year after year. And that scarcity is reflected in value. Strong examples of the 1912 no mint mark wheat penny with dark antique toning and authentic worn condition have reached market values around $540,300 under the right conditions. That means a coin that looks dirty, dark, and forgotten could actually represent life-changing hidden wealth sitting unnoticed in everyday life. So if you ever come across a 1912 wheat penny, stop immediately. Check the date carefully. Confirm the missing mint mark. Study the surface under proper lighting, and never assume dark toning means low value. Never polish it. Never attempt to restore it. And if you believe you have found a significant example, professional grading is essential because authentication and preservation can completely transform its value story overnight. But this isn't the end, because the next wheat penny is even more shocking. One final coin carries a detail so rare and overlooked that collectors still argue about how many truly survive today, because most were spent long before anyone realized their hidden worth. Next up, a 1918 wheat penny without a mint mark is the kind of coin that most people would never think twice about, especially when it shows green spotting across the surface and an old, worn, fine-condition look. To an untrained eye, it looks like corrosion, damage, something that should be tossed aside or ignored. But in the collector world, this is exactly the kind of survivor coin that quietly turns heads, because original early wheat pennies with natural aging and untouched surfaces are becoming harder to find every year. And right now, coins like this are still being spent without hesitation. Do not spend this coin. The story behind this penny goes straight into one of the most intense moments in American history. In 1918, the United States was at the peak of World War I involvement. The entire nation was operating under wartime pressure. Factories running non-stop, materials being rationed, and everyday life shaped by urgency and survival. Coins were not preserved as collectibles at the time. They were tools of daily life, moving constantly through soldiers, workers, rail systems, farms, and crowded city markets. That heavy circulation is exactly why surviving examples today often show strong wear, surface changes, and environmental toning like the green spots seen on this coin. And this detail changes everything. Because this coin carries no mint mark, it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint during wartime production. Philadelphia Wheat Pennies from 1918 are particularly significant because they represent early Lincoln cent circulation during a global conflict. Collectors study these coins closely because they connect directly to the original production era of the wheat series under real historical pressure. Even worn examples become important when they still show authentic structure and identifiable detail. The obverse side features Abraham Lincoln facing right with "In God We Trust," arched above, "Liberty" to the left, and the date 1918 to the right with no mint mark beneath it. On the reverse, the iconic wheat ears frame 1 cent and United States of America with "E pluribus unum" curved across the top. Even in worn condition, this design remains one of the most recognizable symbols in U.S. coin history. But what makes this coin especially interesting is the surface condition. The green spots visible on both sides are a key detail collectors examine closely. These marks often form through long-term environmental exposure and oxidation of copper. Many people mistake them for damage and immediately assume the coin has no value. But in reality, stable natural toning combined with original surfaces can actually support collector interest. The critical factor is authenticity, whether the coin has been cleaned or altered. Never clean this coin. Removing those natural layers destroys originality and permanently damages collector value. The 1918 wheat penny is composed of 95% copper, with the remaining 5% consisting mainly of zinc and tin. It weighs approximately 3.11 grams, measures 19.05 millimeters in diameter, and has a thickness around 1.5 millimeters with a smooth, plain edge. In hand, it feels small and ordinary, which is exactly why it continues to be overlooked in circulation and old collections. Collectors, however, go far deeper than appearance. They inspect Lincoln's portrait under magnification for remaining detail in worn areas. They analyze wheat stalk definition to confirm authenticity. They evaluate whether green toning is stable or active corrosion. Even in almost fine condition, early wheat pennies that still retain honest surface history can attract strong attention because they represent survival through more than a century of real-world use. This is not fiction. As interest in early Lincoln cents grows globally, 1918 Philadelphia wheat pennies are increasingly being absorbed into private collections and long-term holdings. Many of the better examples are no longer appearing in circulation at all. That shrinking availability is exactly why collector demand continues to rise steadily year after year. And that demand directly affects value. Strong, almost fine examples of the 1918 no mint mark wheat penny with green spotting and original surfaces have reached market values around $370,800 under the right conditions. That means a coin most people would dismiss as dirty or corroded could actually represent serious, hidden wealth sitting unnoticed in everyday life. So if you ever come across a 1918 wheat penny, stop immediately. Check the date carefully. Confirm the missing mint mark. Study the surface under proper lighting and never assume green spots automatically mean damage or low value. Never polish it. Never try to clean it. And if you believe you've found a significant example, professional grading is essential because authentication and preservation can completely transform its value story overnight. But the journey isn't over yet, because the next wheat penny is even more unexpected. One final coin carries a detail so overlooked that collectors still debate how many remain in circulation, because most were spent, lost, or ignored long before anyone understood their true worth. Next up, a 1924 wheat penny without a mint mark doesn't announce itself as anything special, and that's exactly why it keeps slipping through people's hands unnoticed. At first glance, it looks like a dark, blackened antique coin, with green spotting on the reverse side, something most people would assume is just old damage. But in the collector world, coins like this can become quiet targets of serious attention when they retain original surfaces and strong structural detail. And right now, coins like this are still being spent every day without hesitation. Do not spend this coin. The story of this penny takes you straight into the middle of the Roaring Twenties. In 1924, America was experiencing rapid industrial growth, rising cities, and a booming economy after World War I. Money flowed faster than ever through shops, railroads, factories, and expanding urban life. Coins were handled constantly, often without care, passing through thousands of hands over decades. That constant circulation is the reason why surviving wheat pennies from this era often show deep aging, surface oxidation, and environmental toning like the black antique appearance seen on this coin. And this detail changes everything. Because there is no mint mark beneath the date, this coin was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. Philadelphia wheat pennies from the 1920s are especially important because they represent the core production of the series during one of America's most economically active decades. These coins were never meant to be preserved, they were meant to circulate. That's why finding a 1924 example with very fine detail and original surface character is becoming increasingly uncommon in today's collector market. The obverse side features Abraham Lincoln facing right with "In God We Trust" above his portrait, Liberty on the left side, and the date 1924 on the right with no mint mark beneath it. On the reverse side, the iconic wheat ears frame the bold 1 cent and United States of America with E pluribus unum curved along the top. Even in worn condition, this design remains one of the most recognizable symbols of early American coinage. But what makes this coin so visually striking is its surface condition. That black antique tone, combined with green spots on the reverse side, creates a natural aging pattern, formed over decades of circulation and environmental exposure. Many people mistake this for severe damage. But collectors often study these surfaces closely because stable natural toning can confirm originality. The most important rule in coin collecting applies here: never clean this coin. Once the surface is altered, the coin loses its natural history and collector appeal can drop instantly. The 1924 wheat penny is composed of 95% copper, with the remaining 5% consisting primarily of zinc and tin. It weighs approximately 3.11 grams, measures 19.05 millimeters in diameter, and carries a thickness around 1.5 millimeters with a smooth, plain edge. In the hand, it feels small, ordinary, and unremarkable, exactly the kind of coin people overlook without a second thought. Collectors, however, look much deeper. They inspect Lincoln's facial details under magnification, searching for preserved structure in worn areas. They analyze wheat stalk definition to confirm authenticity and circulation history. They evaluate whether the black toning and green spotting are stable or signs of active corrosion. Even in very fine condition, coins with honest aging and original surfaces can attract strong attention because they represent genuine survival through a century of use. This is not fiction. As interest in early wheat pennies continues to grow, 1,924 Philadelphia issues are being steadily absorbed into private collections and long-term holdings. Many of the strongest surviving examples are no longer appearing in circulation at all. That shrinking availability is exactly why collector demand continues to rise quietly but consistently. And that demand directly impacts value. Strong, very fine examples of the 1,924 no mint mark wheat penny with black antique toning and green reverse spotting have reached market values around $300,200 under the right conditions. That means a coin that looks dark, dirty, and heavily aged could actually represent serious hidden wealth sitting unnoticed in everyday life. So if you ever come across a 1,924 wheat penny, stop immediately. Check the date carefully. Confirm the missing mint mark. Study the surface under proper lighting and never assume dark toning or green spots mean low value. Never polish it. Never attempt to restore it. And if you believe you've found a strong example, professional grading is essential because authentication and preservation can completely change its value story overnight. But this journey is not finished yet, because the next wheat penny is even more surprising. One final coin carries a detail so subtle that collectors still debate how many truly remain in circulation, because most were spent, lost, or overlooked long before anyone realized their hidden worth. Next up, a 1,942D wheat penny can look completely unremarkable in the wrong light. But the moment you notice its unusual light purple tone, mixed with green, spotting on both sides, and heavy scratches from decades of circulation, something changes. It stops looking like just an old penny and starts looking like a survivor from another time, one that quietly carried itself through war-era America and ended up forgotten in pockets, jars, and drawers. And that's exactly why coins like this are still slipping through everyday life unnoticed. Do not spend this coin. The year 1942 sits in the middle of one of the most intense periods in American history. The United States had fully entered World War II, and nearly every part of the economy was focused on supporting the war effort. Factories were running non-stop, materials were being rationed, and even small things like coins were part of a larger national system under pressure. Pennies circulated heavily during this time, passing through military bases, industrial plants, railway stations, and everyday civilian life at incredible speed. Very few were treated carefully, which is why surviving wheat pennies from this era often show strong wear, discoloration, and surface changes like the ones seen on this coin. And this detail changes everything. Because this coin carries a D mint mark beneath the date, it was struck at the Denver Mint during wartime production. Denver Mint output during World War II was extremely active. Coins were produced under high-demand conditions that left many examples entering circulation immediately. Collectors place strong interest in these Denver issues because they represent wartime coinage distribution across the western United States during a period of national stress and rapid industrial output. The obverse side features Abraham Lincoln facing right with "In God We Trust" above his portrait, Liberty on the left, and the date 1942 on the right with the D mint mark beneath it. The reverse side shows the classic wheat ears framing 1 cent and United States of America with E pluribus unum across the top. Even heavily worn examples still carry the strong identity of early American cent design, making them instantly recognizable even after decades of circulation. But what makes this coin visually unique is its surface condition. That light purple tone combined with green spots on both sides creates a complex aging pattern that often develops through long-term oxidation and environmental exposure. Most people misread this as severe damage or corrosion. But collectors often study these unusual color transitions carefully because natural toning can confirm authenticity and untouched surfaces. Scratches across the coin tell an additional story of circulation, years of movement through real commerce, not preservation. Never clean this coin. Once the natural surface is altered, the historical identity and collector appeal can be permanently destroyed. The 1942D wheat penny is composed of 95% copper, with the remaining 5% consisting mainly of zinc and tin. It weighs approximately 3.11 grams, measures 19.05 millimeters in diameter, and carries a thickness around 1.5 millimeters with a smooth, plain edge. In hand, it feels ordinary and small, exactly the kind of object people overlook without a second thought. Collectors, however, examine far more than appearance. They study Lincoln's portrait detail under magnification. They inspect wheat stalk definition on the reverse for remaining structure. They evaluate whether the purple and green toning is stable natural oxidation or active surface corrosion. Even in old and heavily circulated condition, coins with authentic wartime surfaces can still generate strong collector interest because they represent real history preserved in metal. This is not fiction. As wheat penny collecting expands globally, wartime-era coins, like the 1942D, are increasingly being absorbed into private collections and long-term holdings. Many of the strongest surviving examples are no longer appearing in circulation at all. That shrinking availability is why collector demand continues to rise quietly but steadily year after year. And that demand directly impacts value. Strong, old-condition examples of the 1942D wheat penny with light purple toning, green spotting, and natural circulation wear have reached market values around $190,900 under the right conditions. That means a coin that looks scratched, dark, and heavily aged could actually represent significant hidden wealth sitting unnoticed in everyday life. So if you ever find a 1942D wheat penny, stop immediately. Check the date carefully. Confirm the D mint mark beneath it. Study the surface under proper lighting, and never assume unusual color means low value. Never polish it. Never try to restore it. And if you believe you've discovered a strong example, professional grading is essential because authentication and preservation can completely change its value story overnight. But this isn't the end, because the final wheat penny in this series is the most surprising of all. One tiny detail, phi, on that last coin has made collectors rethink how many truly remain in circulation, because most were spent long before anyone realized what they were holding. Next up, a 1932D wheat penny is not the kind of coin you casually notice. It's the kind that looks ordinary until the moment you realize how few of them were ever made and how many have already disappeared forever into circulation, damage, or plain ignorance. At first glance, this coin shows a classic bronze tone mixed with green spotting across both sides and a fine level of wear that most people would instantly dismiss as just old change. But in the collector world, this exact combination can trigger serious attention because surviving early D-mint wheat pennies in any honest condition are becoming extremely difficult to find. And right now, coins like this are still being spent without hesitation. Do not spend this coin. The story behind this penny starts in one of the most difficult economic periods in American history. In 1932, the United States was deep in the Great Depression. Unemployment was at extreme levels, banks were collapsing, and everyday life revolved around survival and careful spending. Coins were used constantly, passed from hand to hand, reused endlessly and rarely preserved. Every penny carried real weight in daily life. The Denver Mint, marked by the D beneath the date, produced coins in lower quantities compared to other years, which makes surviving examples even more significant today. And this detail changes everything. Because the D Mint mark places this coin at the Denver Mint during a year of reduced coin production, collectors immediately recognize its scarcity profile compared to more common wheat penny dates. Early 1930s Denver issues are heavily studied because many were lost to circulation, melted, or simply worn down beyond recognition over time. Finding one today, with visible detail and natural bronze surface integrity, is becoming increasingly rare. The obverse side features Abraham Lincoln facing right with "In God We Trust" above his portrait, Liberty to the left, and the date 1932 on the right, with the small D Mint mark beneath it. On the reverse side, the iconic wheat ears frame 1 cent and United States of America with E Pluribus Unum curved across the top. Even in worn condition, this design represents one of the most important and recognizable eras of American coinage. But what makes this coin visually striking is its surface condition. That bronze base tone combined with green spotting on both sides tells a long environmental history shaped by decades of oxidation and circulation. Many people mistake this for damage or corrosion. But collectors often study these patterns carefully because natural toning can confirm authenticity and long-term survival without cleaning or alteration. Never clean this coin. Once the original surface layer is removed, the historical identity is permanently destroyed and collector value can collapse instantly. The 1932D wheat penny is composed of 95% copper, with the remaining 5% consisting mainly of zinc and tin. It weighs approximately 3.11 grams, measures 19.05 millimeters in diameter, and has a thickness around 1.5 millimeters with a smooth, plain edge. In the hand, it feels simple, small, and completely ordinary, exactly the type of coin most people would never think twice about spending. Collectors, however, see something very different. They examine the sharpness of Lincoln's portrait to identify remaining structure under wear. They inspect wheat stalk lines for surviving definition. They evaluate whether the green spotting is stable toning or active corrosion. Even in fine condition, early Denver Mint wheat pennies attract attention because they represent lower mintage years combined with decades of survival pressure in circulation. This is not fiction. As wheat penny collecting continues to grow worldwide, early 1930s Denver issues like the 1932D are increasingly being pulled into private collections and long-term holdings. Many surviving examples are no longer appearing in circulation at all. That shrinking supply is exactly what drives collector demand higher year after year, especially for coins that still maintain identifiable detail and original surfaces. And that scarcity is reflected in value. Strong, fine-condition examples of the 1932D wheat penny with bronze toning and green spotting on both sides have reached market values around $620,900 under the right conditions. That means a coin that looks dark, worn, and ordinary could actually represent life-changing hidden wealth sitting unnoticed in everyday life. So if you ever come across a 1932D wheat penny, stop immediately. Check the date carefully. Confirm the D mint mark beneath it. Study the surface under proper lighting, and never assume green spots or aged bronze color means low value. Never polish it. Never attempt to restore it. And if you believe you've found a significant example, professional grading is essential because authentication and preservation can completely transform its value story overnight. And now this journey ends, but the truth is, coins like these are still out there. Quiet, overlooked, passing through hands every single day, waiting for someone to finally recognize what everyone else is accidentally throwing away.